Hey everybody, we're just coming to you from St. Mark's. We've got the whole talking this Lenten season. We're going to do these every week. We're going to try to come together and just have some conversations around just ways that we want to go deeper in our faith, and especially just maybe ways we take some of the things we're talking about this season, taking those kind of the next step and asking some questions, and just really trying to dive deeper into our faith a little bit this Lenten season. And so what we thought we'd do tonight, we've obviously just had our Ash Wednesday service. That's why we all look like this. We are not chimney sweeps. We just had our Ash Wednesday service, and it was great. We had like more than 100 people here. It was really, really cool, and I think it just kind of speaks to, we were saying, I think there's kind of this desire for some of these more traditional elements and some of those practices that really give some extra meaning at different times. I think we can get stuck in our routines. So one of the things that we do during Lent is we oftentimes will fast from different things as a way of like what we talked about last week, remembering what our real hunger is for. It's for God and for a relationship with Jesus. So I'm just curious, what are some ways that because people fast from different things, that kind of stuff. Have you guys ever done any fasting in the past, or what does that kind of look like for you, maybe during Lent or maybe other times?
The year Naomi was born, I fasted from social media, so I couldn't even tell the world I had a baby. And that was hard, but I was, it made me kind of be more in the moment, I guess, and kind of enjoy those special times because they grow so fast. So it was really nice I've done that a few times. We're just taking that break from social media and really focusing on scripture and just being with God more and praying more and giving my family attention, and it's been really nice. So.
Yeah.
How disciplined of you though? I think it's tempting to break those, and we always can justify why we're breaking a fast. And I could see justifying I had a baby. I can, and then it's a slippery slope then. So that's really cool that you're so disciplined.
I still took 4,000 pictures.
So. Of course.
Which you shared when we got on. And then photo dump onto social media.
Right. Years later.
Yeah.
Anybody done any kind of fasting? Like social media, I think, is a really common one these days.
Yeah.
Anybody done any different kinds before?
I mean, I've done the whole try to give up pop for Lent or chocolate, and I've never been successful, full disclosure, on a food fast. I just have not been able to give up sweets. But honestly, I think the more meaningful fast that I've tried to do and have been more successful at is the trying to fast from worry and anxiety and stress, and trying to really be intentional during Lent, because it is a period of time. It has a start and an end, and it seems like a very manageable time to focus on trying to rid my life of things that bring me down. And so whenever worry or stress or anxiety would creep in, that's when I'm more intentional about getting the Bible out and trying to fast from letting those feelings creep in, because they do so often.
Isn't it interesting though that it's harder to fast from something tangible than fasting from something intangible? So instead of trying to say oh, I'm not gonna buy that pop, I'd rather say oh, I'm not gonna try to worry, and that feels like it's so much harder.
Yeah. So fasting, I think, is one of those spiritual disciplines that maybe not everybody practices all the time. We focus on it a little bit during Lent, but there's a lot of other different spiritual practices that can help us. Maybe fasting's not your thing, and maybe you want to try some other different spiritual practice during these next 40 days to just help deepen your relationship with Christ. So what are some of the spiritual practices that you find really meaningful or that can be really helpful for you? So for instance, for me, one that I've tried to practice is the Wesley Covenant prayer. I try to say, it's a prayer that's written out, and I try to do the same prayer, say that prayer every day. And that can be a really meaningful thing for me. So does anybody else have what's a spiritual practice that's really meaningful for you?
Trying to do my devotional before I start my day. That's the number one thing for me is if I don't do it in the morning, it doesn't get done because there are 500 other things that are begging for my attention at all times. So if I really try to put God first in that way and take that time and just like, okay, TV's not being turned on, you know, I'm gonna sit here and drink this coffee and I'm gonna read, and then the rest of the day seems to go just a little bit better usually when I do that, which is nice.
For me, Lent has always been about, and maybe this is where I sometimes am weak, is not giving up, but what I'm going to try to do more of or try to do instead, because I didn't like the negative connotation of giving something up. I get the meaning behind it, like it's about Lent and the practice of Lent, but for me it's like reading the Bible and trying to be more intentional about that, because I'm not, and that's something I want to do, but it's also like putting those little notes around the house that remind me to be grateful and to say thank you and to don't use certain words or things like that. So I think that's for me like what I want to try to do.
You said grateful, and that reminded me that a year or so ago, I bought my youngest kiddo, who's almost 9, like a prayer journal, and it has like it walks us through like, what are you grateful for, what are your prayer concerns, and so I said, let's do that together every night, all by myself, a matching one, and we'll do it together every night. And I'm tired at the end of the night, and honestly, I don't want to do it. And so I'm thankful that God gave me her to hold me accountable, because she will not let me off the hook. Like, we're doing it every night, whether we are sick or not. She already told me she's packing it, and we're doing it in Florida next week.
That's the best accountability
I
partner.
know.
That's a really good accountability partner
But
for sure.
my whole family would tell you that I am glass half empty. I'm a negative person first. I'm the pessimist in the family, and so having that practice of every night being like, okay, God, like I'm gonna find the things that you have done for me, the things that you are in my life, is so important to refocus me, and really helps my anxiety and my worries, and just helps me to get my mind right.
Yeah, I think accountability is super important, which is, you know, for anything, not just spiritual practices, but like, just like, for example, like curryn, like I would never have done any of the running that I did, half marathon training, without, like, that just doesn't happen without accountability, because it's hard.
I haven't
And
done it since
right,
last week.
we should probably maybe we should fast to that.
This is now true confession.
Right,
What-
right,
yeah.
yeah.
What a
But-
great
Yeah, we could work on that.
Okay.
Yeah. But I would say one of the spiritual practices that are most meaningful to me are just my commute to work in the mornings, when I'm not listening to Rex Howard in the morning on WKXA.
Little plug.
Shameless plug.
I am listening to worship music, and it is a time, like, I don't know, like, I've just never really gotten into podcasts or anything, and I know they're great, but like, for me, it's like the music and the worship time that I have, just me and God, because nobody needs to hear me sing, like, in church on the stage. Like, I can sing to myself in my car.
In the car, I'm Beyonce.
But it is meaningful, and sometimes I show up to work with, like, I've been crying, because it's just it's a powerful time of worship, just me and my car and God. So those are meaningful moments for me.
So you mentioned something a minute ago about fasting 2 things, and so that's a part of what we talk about. We talked about a little bit tonight during the Ash Wednesday service, that yes, we're supposed to, like, fasting from something can help us with our you know, to recognize our hunger for God and to, like, discipline ourselves to do that. But, you know, the prophets also talk about, you know, Isaiah talked about it, Mike talked about it, like the idea of fasting to something. Isn't this the fast I choose to loose the bonds of injustice and to feed the hungry and all these things? It's like something that about our fasting is meant to make us, you know, do something. There's supposed to be an action that we do. So what are some things that maybe during the Lenten season that you're not just thinking about fasting from, but something you're trying to fast to, something that you're trying to do more of during Lent?
I really have kind of thought about it in like a 2-part thing. Like, I think sometimes I focus more on loving others than I do on loving God, and that's been something that I feel like the Lord's really been convicting me of this year. So I've been thinking, okay, how in these 40 days can I love God more and love others more? So both and so I've decided that I want to do like a specific Lent devotional, which I'm doing through my Bible app. So if anybody needs a recommendation, I'm happy to give that to you. We can even do it together and hold each other accountable. Like we talked about, just send me a message or comment on the video, and I'll hook you up with that. But also, there's one of the little free food pantries about maybe half a mile from my house, and so decided that at least a couple times a week I would just walk there, pray as I'm walking, take some food, drop it in there for somebody who needs it. and love others through that. So really going to try to do both, focus on loving God and others.
That's great.
Very good.
That's great. I mentioned reading the Bible earlier, and then you mentioned accountability. So I was thinking, like, how great to be a part of this team and have my friends sitting in the room to hold me accountable for that. So that's definitely one thing. But as we've been talking here today, I've been thinking about my father-in-law, who was a very strong Christian person. At Christmas time, he asked for a cross necklace. And he said he saw someone in a store wearing it, and he wanted one because he wanted to wear that so people knew he loved Jesus and he could talk about Jesus. So I think about that, like wearing my cross necklace, whatever that is, so people know that I'm a follower of Jesus and that I'm a Christian, and that they sort of, that song, like, they'll know we are Christians by our love, that they know that and that they don't have to wonder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being more open to those opportunities too, to have those conversations with people. And like when you're at the store, I know you talked about before, Dan, how you always try to help somebody when you're at the grocery store, and I think about that every time I go, and sometimes I ignore it, but other times I'm like, okay, how can I help? Like, who, even if it's just having a little bit of a longer conversation with the person, like checking out, or going to a person and not going to the machine where I can just do it myself and get out of the store. I think being intentional is a big part of it.
And it really does, like, when you see someone who maybe might look like they're frowning a little bit, like, if you just say, hey, you look nice, I like your hair, you have a nice smile, I hope you have a great day, you don't know what they're going through, and those can just make such a difference in their lives.
It really sounds like being intentional about seeing people through God's eyes and loving them. And there's so much of our days that we do and we don't notice people, and so that intentionality is so important.
Just think of how you feel like somebody compliments you, and I'm like, oh, thanks, I washed my hair today, or it just makes you feel a little bit extra special, and I feel like God would want that for everybody. So
That's really
really
amen.
good.
Definitely. Yep, absolutely.
For me, I was thinking about this on my drive here tonight about what's the thing I'm fasting to this year. And so as I was driving here, I was thinking about this idea of like forgiveness. Like I want to be really intentional about forgiving others and asking people for forgiveness. Like when I do something wrong, like admitting I've done something wrong. And so I'm thinking about this the whole way here. And as soon as I get here, I pull into a parking space, and my door gets flung open by the wind, and I ding Mandy's car. And I'm like, oh, maybe nobody saw it. And I was like, no, my thing is asking for forgiveness. And so I came right in. I had to go find Mandy right away and say, Mandy, I'm so sorry.
I forgive you.
Thank you so much.
God was
I'll
like,
send you the bill, but I forgive you.
God was
So
like,
please
you
do
want to
send me
do
the
that?
bill.
Here you
But-
go.
But yeah, exactly. So, but I do think like there's something about the idea. Like for me, I think that's gonna be my thing. It should be my thing all the time. But I want to try to be more aware of it and focus more on the times when I need to ask for forgiveness for things that I've done wrong, and like admitting that I've done them wrong, and then also offering forgiveness even when maybe somebody's not asked for it. But like I feel like sometimes we go throughout our days just like angry at people, and I just don't want to do that. Even if it's the person that cut me off in traffic, or something that happened on the news and somebody made me mad. Like I just don't want to walk around with anger all day. And so think about how do I forgive and those kinds of things.
I'm wondering if Holly's going to be your accountability partner for you asking
She
for
will.
forgiveness.
There is no doubt about it.
In the car, I mean,
Hey, we're all human.
There are no limits to forgiveness, but
Yes.
We're all human.
the car is an interesting place to ride.
Oh,
Dan.
I resemble that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
We're all imperfect.
We are.
We're all
We
imperfect.
are. We are.
And don't you know you're a pastor, Dan? So don't you know that like you're not supposed to pray for like, let's say, patience, because God's not going to give you patience.
Right.
He's going to like make your kids act.
Yeah,
like
no, I
patient.
know.
That's what you did today when you prayed for forgiveness.
Yeah, I know. It's just
You're
like
helping with that.
well,
yeah.
it cost you a ding in your door.
I know, it's all right. If
So-
it helps you grow, I'm all for
It helps
it.
me
Yeah,
grow.
there we go.
Thank you. So we're going to be back, different people from the staff, and obviously this isn't our whole staff. This is our programming staff. We have some great people at this church, and we're going to try to share a little bit throughout this, through these 40 days, just a little bit of going deeper. I hope you'll find some ways to go deeper. Think about the things you might be fasting from, but also think about things you might fast to, and find some sort of spiritual discipline to just let this be a season where you grow deeper in your walk with Christ. So thanks for joining us tonight, and hope that you have a great Lenten season growing closer to Christ.